accent. If I disappoint a few of you, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to tell you my adoption story. I met my biological family 4 years ago, and just kind of, I guess, start from the beginning and to now. I'm 25. So my biological mother had me when she was 22, and she wasn't financially able to take care of me. She could have kept me, so she wasn't like I wasn't taken from her or anything. But so she decided to put me up for adoption. She was in a maternity home for the last 6 months of her pregnancy, because apparently the first 3 months she didn't know she was pregnant with me. My biological father dared her to jump off a bridge. She did it. She was pregnant with me. Yeah, that kind of makes sense now. No, I'm kidding. I was adopted when I was 6 weeks old, and my name before was Jessica Louise Adams. I'm MaryKate Allen now, Mary Catherine. Jesse Lou Adams, Tennessee. Kind of makes sense. So I have always had this curiosity about where I came from. You know, my adopted parents, Debbie and Tommy, you know, my whole life I've always said, look, you know, we support you, and whatever you do, you know, I've always known I was adopted. It's never been a mystery. They just, you know, they've always told me, you know, God gave you to us, and, you know, that's firmly what I believe. You know, I came from circumstances that my birth mother wouldn't have been able to take care of me, and then I was in very fortunate circumstances, and I grew up very happy with a loving, adoring family. My adopted father died when I was 8 years old, and, you know, my mom, you know, single-handedly took care of me and my sister. They both adopted us. My mom and dad were married happily for 25 years. And, you know, it's just kind of like, you know, my mom, she is mom. You know, she adopted me, she raised me, she's done the best she could with us. And, she's always, like I said, she's always supported me. Well, the Tennessee state law is you cannot find your biological family until you're 21 years old. So, you know, when I was a teenager, I started to express more interest, and I wanted to find more about it. And so my mom, she's like, you know, when I was 16, she gave me 3 letters that were written to me from my biological mother. She had never met my birth mother. I was placed with a family. My birth mother didn't have the option, and so I was put up for adoption. You come next on the list. That's who I got. My parents were expecting a boy. The state called them up and was like, hey, yeah, we got a girl. You want her? So, yeah. All right, well, sorry I got the other thing. But, anyway, so my mom gave me the 3 letters, and you know, my birth mother said, you know, whenever you become of age and with your parents' support, I want you to find me. And that was the most relieving thing I'd ever had, because, you know, my whole life I've always known this, and just kind of with that letter was, you know, confirmation, like, hey, yeah, so whenever you get to it, come around, find me, we'll get together, we'll hang. Cool. Fast forward a little bit. So when I turned 21, the day after I turned 21, I submitted the paperwork to the state, and I'm from Jackson at the time. That's in between Memphis and Nashville. I was going to the University of Memphis. They told me they could send me the paperwork. It's a 3-month process. They send paperwork out to the family members, and they're like, hey, if you want contact with her, you don't want contact with her. Well, everybody obliged, everybody wanted to meet me, so yeah, moved on forward. I drove 3 hours to Nashville, and there's just this big pile of paperwork that, you know, my whole life, I have absolutely no idea of where I come from, my heritage, my family, and the paperwork, it said, on my dad's side, that I have one brother. Incorrect. So, I met all 31 of my first cousins. My dad was a child of 8 kids. And my grandmother's still alive. So my biological grandmother on my dad's side is still alive. She's 81 years old. I have 31 first cousins on my dad's side alone. 27 second cousins, and then 8 third cousins. So she's got 8 great-grandkids. So yeah, so they really don't have a lot of stuff to do down in Tennessee. You kind of wonder why I moved. That's why I'm here. No, I'm kidding. which just also happens to be my biological mother's birthday, Tennessee contacted her and it's like, your daughter wants to find you. She wants to meet you. And finally confirmation got through, and we just, we talked on the phone for a little while, and the first time we talked for like 3 hours, and then it just cut, we kept talking, and it was just like the most relaxing thing because it felt like I had known her forever. My birth mother was actually married for 13 years. My birth father and her were only together for 4 months, and I was a product of that 4-month relationship. She was married for 13 years. She had 4 miscarriages all in between 4 to 6 months. I was her only surviving child, and she carried me 2 weeks late. So for her to find me and for me to want to find her was like, it's just like a magic connection. It's just like, holy crap, so that's what I look like? Yeah, so we ended up meeting at Cracker Barrel. Yes, we're kind of limited. So it turns out that like my biological family is only 35 minutes away from where I had grown up. So kind of think of it like downtown to like Chesterfield. That's literally how far we were from each other, like for the whole time. Her family's actually from Nebraska, but her dad's side is from Tennessee, and just at the time, that's where she had been living. And so we met at the Cracker Barrel, and she walks up to me, her and my grandfather, and she looks at me, and the very first thing that ever comes out of her mouth is she looks at my breast, and she's like, I don't know where you got that from, but it wasn't from my side of the family. I'm like, yep, you're definitely my birth mother, aren't you? So, yeah, because not unfortunately, but that's something I would totally do. There's no filter sometimes, so yeah, it was kind of unreal. And this is actually a picture of our first meeting, if you can see it, but it's really amazing because you just kind of like, you just never, my adopted mom has like curly hair and she's really tall, and then my birth mother, well, she's a pear shape and, short, and, well, I got her hips. A little bit later, I had the privilege of meeting my biological father. I met him a little bit later after my birth mother. She hadn't spoken to him in 20 years. He didn't sign my birth certificate. It wasn't until after I was actually put up for adoption that he stepped up and he signed it, and he claimed me. So if he wouldn't have signed that piece of paper, I would not have had a dad's side of the family. My birth mother went with me. I met my birth father at a pancake house. Yeah, it's just getting classier and classier. I met my birth father. He unfortunately didn't come from the best of circumstances. He had made some pretty wrongful decisions in his life that took it actually this past March. Even with the unfortunate decisions that he made, I lost my dad, my dad that I'd known when I was 8. But, regardless of, the fact that I wasn't raised with him, I still treated him like a friend. It's like, regardless, you can't choose your family. You can't choose where you come from. You got to count your blessings, and you got to consider yourself very fortunate. And that's what I did, I got to meet where I came from. This whole part of my life, I had no idea. And, so I got to go and see him. I developed a very close relationship with his family. That probably explains why I've got like 85 biological family members on my Facebook. I know a lot of people have that as just their friends, but that's just my family. Oh, God. Anyway, so with my birth father, I found out I have 2 sisters. Both of them have black hair and brown eyes. I got blue eyes, blonde hair. Go figure. But getting to the point, I was saved. Like, my birth mother didn't have to keep me, or, she could have gotten rid of me. I was raised in such a wonderful, blessed family. Not to get all religious, but, you just wonder, like, how could you come up with those circumstances, and how could have I turned out the way I did? Yeah, I got, like, flaws and issues like the rest of you guys. Right?
Thank you.
Well, two families. Every time I go home, I see my biological mother and I see my mom. I see my families. And it's just like they've met each other, and, it's just like the most surreal thing because, it's just really cool. And I guess that's my story. I've been saved by my adoptive family and my biological family, so twice over.